Barton Lynch's Blast Off is back for 2023. The Blast Off Challenge is something that Barton Lynch has kicked off, and it is an amazing little concept for some Groms out there. If you're under 14, this is where you can upload some video clips to the Barton Lynch Comp, the Blast Off website. You will receive coaching and feedback from expert panel, including Barton himself, and there's heaps to be won. They run some sick prizes where you can get worst wipeout, best tube, best GoPro POV, all of that stuff. It's kicking off on the October the 16th for a month. Share it with all the Groms out there. Get them uploaded. They'll get some excellent coaching and feedback and some excellent prizes. Get on it. Now we're jumping into our latest episode, and here it is.
Hi, Matthew.
Hello, mate.
Hey, can you tell me, is my mic kind of sounding good? Because I attached my mic to my laptop.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, good.
Hey, Matty.
How you doing?
How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Not too bad.
You need to turn the background stuff off so it doesn't glitch out on us.
How? Below my background?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that might be. Oh, yeah.
No, that's not it.
I think just don't have any effects on the background.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
It's
never been a problem before. Choose virtual background.
And then put none. There you go, none.
Where?
There.
There we go.
You should definitely use this in the podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Insiders Audio Noughts. It's the 12th of October. It's 1 year later, and I'm again sitting next to Mr. Kale Brock. Welcome to the show, Kale.
Thanks for having me back, guys. It's good to be back in France. Good to be back in Daz's wonderful little abode, full of surfboards.
Thank you, Kale, and welcome, Matt, wherever you are in France.
Welcome, gents. I'm currently sat in a hotel in Montpellier, which is it's a strange place, but it's pretty nice.
What are you doing there, Matty?
Using it as a bit of a stopover. So I spent a month down in Hossegor, and then we're driving across to the south of France to like Nice and then to Italy. So we're just using it as a stopover. Gonna go and see the city today, and then then do some more driving tomorrow. So
Lovely.
Yeah, missing the surf already, but
yeah, I tell you what, it was a cracking start to the season. Literally the day I got here, Lenore was I think 6 to 8 foot, and then the next day was the same, and then I was running up and down the coast, finding some banks, not to myself, but the more quieter banks. And it just felt like, oh my goodness, what a friggin' season. This is actually the season that I wanted last year, and you were telling me about, Darren. But apparently it didn't really happen last year. But yeah, it's been sunny, warm weather, perfect banks. What a place. What a friggin' autumn, hey?
Actually, now that we're talking about that, I remember last year with Noah, because I lent him a bunch of cold weather jackets, which he didn't use. But the big difference between this October and last October, which I've noticed, is we've got the easterly winds as opposed to last year we had the southerly winds.
Yeah.
So it was warm, but it wasn't necessarily good for the wind. And then if you look at next week, we've got really good, strong offshore winds coming again, which is kind of classic for the autumn season. So let's see how that goes. It looks like it's just going to be sensational.
It'd be good to get some more barrels, wouldn't it? It's so funny, coming from Nicaragua, which was like very, I would say, playful, all the barrels. I mean, there were a few heavy days, but just feeling that difference in the ocean, the energy. France is much more like back home, where the swell lines, you feel them. I mean, the simplest way to put it is they've just got a deeper force and energy.
A lot thicker, aren't
they? Yeah, compared to somewhere like Nicaragua. Yeah.
How's the other morning? No, it was lunch. on Monday when I surfed like as good as it gets lefts in front of Estonia main beach. Busy bank, but it was a 4 to 6 foot day. And I'm like, I'm going to come in. And I came in and I got that classic pinned on the beach. And I couldn't get up because it had a vertical slope.
Yeah.
And it washed me around. And by the time I got onto the beach, I had sand in my ears, up my nose. I had to blow it out of my nose all through. And when I got back to the cafe in front of the surf shop, I spent 10 minutes hosing to get the sand out.
I think it's definitely like, even when I always find it's like in England, if you've got, even on a big day and you duck dive, like as it's about to land on you, like you duck dive it, and sometimes you can feel it on the back of your calves, and it like is never. And then even on a smaller day in France, you do that duck dive as you're going, and the lip lands on your calves, and it hits you, and you're like, damn, it's like heavy, so much heavier on a smaller day.
I know that exact feeling. I had that feeling the other morning, and you just sort of, you know how sometimes I can't help but feel sometimes affronted, like that the ocean's just trying to beat me up here, you know, like with the current and stuff. The other day, the period was, I think it shifted from the day before. I surfed this beautiful bank, like it was one of those magic afternoons. It was a Sunday. It was up past where everyone sort of parks their car. And there was hardly anyone on it. It was so easy, no current. The next day, the period had jumped up by, I reckon it was 1 or 2 seconds. Like it wasn't that much. And the beach just turned angry, like you were paddling out. The current was gnarly. And the same thing that you're talking about, you do this little duck dive under a 1 footer, and it's like your whole back and calves get massaged by the lip. It's like boom, 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 just these strong forces dumping on you. And you just feel like it's the ultimate humbler.
Hey, I've been sent to the chiropractor one time on a duck dive where I didn't go deep enough, and the lip, and I was like, there would have been a good 50 centimeters, but it penetrated through and got me. And ever since then, I got a little bit gun shy. And sometimes I'll throw my board. I'm like, okay, if something happens, but I don't want it to happen to my back. Yeah,
I remember I was at North Point one day, probably a good 5 or 6 years ago, and I got this really good barrel, and I was really excited. But North Point sort of has those sections, right? North Point in Western Australia, Margaret River. So you get a barrel, but there's often like a closeout, especially on the smaller days. You surf the ledge out the front of the rocks, and then it kind of closes out. Anyway, I got this barrel, and I didn't want to exit, and I should have. And then I tried to exit last second, and the lip just, I remember the feeling, the lip just crunched me. Like I came out and it flattened me, and I scorpioned against the water, and I felt my whole back go as if the chiropractor had just done that adjustment, that typical thoracic adjustment, and nothing hurt. Like there was no pain or anything. But
sometimes
I was like,
it's good.
Yeah, maybe it like fixed up a couple of subluxations.
Yeah, people pay like £100 an hour for someone to jump all over their back.
Just go out at friggin' North Point or Lenore and you're fine.
So, Kale, like what we just said, you're back here in France, and we spoke to you last year. Can you give us a brief timeline on what life as Kale has taken since in this last year? Like what we could say, life of a traveling surfer.
I guess last year I was here on my own, only shooting a little bit, and sort of, I would say, not working full time for a while. This year has been quite a step up in terms of intensity of workload. After last year in France, I went to Morocco, documented a bunch of experiences there, had an amazing month. It didn't get under 4 foot for 30 days straight, so that was really good. Then I went home and I had a really good slab season. So there's a couple of slabs at home that work over summer that I just chase.
Home is South Australia.
Yeah. So spent some time there, did the wave pool again. The wave pool retreats were really successful. Went to Fiji for a bit, nearly drowned at Cloudbreak. That was pretty intense. And then went back and stayed in Oz, basically lived between Byron and South Oz. And again, was just chasing the slabs at home. Got the best wave of my life, which was really cool. the one I've been chasing for 20 years. And then I just did 6 weeks in Nicaragua, doing about 6 weeks here, about 6 weeks in Morocco, and I'll be home for Christmas Eve.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a pretty good schedule, hey?
It's a pretty solid trip. Yeah, that's sick.
Hey, so we spoke about that yesterday, the way of your life, which I've had brand new surfers or 2 to 3 year basically compete beginners.
Put the cat out.
Just put the cat outside. Sorry about that. Tell me, like at the end of their week with me, I just got the wave of my life today. So when you got the wave of your life, Kale, how did that affect you, like before and after you went to sleep, for example, in that first week?
All right, I'll share the story because I think it's a pretty good one. I went out into the desert back home and just parked up the van near a couple of really reliable slabs. So it was an offshore week and I just knew it was going to be good. There were 4 days in a row. It was me and maybe 2 or 3 other people in the water. There's 5 different slabs to choose from. Like it's pretty dreamy. So I just paddled out the front. I was first out every day because you drive so far from home to get there. The sun actually comes up quite a significant amount of time later. So you wake up quite early. And so I paddled out when the moon was still up. Like it was really dark and cool. And I was the only one there. There's no cars in sight. Like couldn't even see anyone. And it was pretty solid. The day before I'd had a bunch of barrels, posted a couple of those on my Instagram. And this was a little bit bigger and it was super low tide. So this particular spot needs it basically gets better and better as the tide drops, the lower the tide is, but it's also really shallow on this particular little, I would call it like a finger of reef that it really hollows out on. So the lower it gets, the chances are every now and then you get this one that breaks just on the deeper side of the finger. So you can backdoor the finger part of the reef and just go straight into the tube. So anyway, I'm sitting out the back. I probably had 1 or 2 smaller ones and I was actually a little bit nervous because it was dark. It was really hollow and the sun hadn't quite come up yet. And I was sitting out the back and just as the sun was coming up over the sand dunes, this local guy from, I say local, he lives an hour and a half away. That's what it's like out there. He was just starting to paddle out and this bomb came, like this big one, probably a 6 or 8 footer. And I was saying to you last night, I was looking for an excuse not to go this wave because obviously I'm so scared. I'm on my own, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to go this wave. But also while I was looking for that excuse, my surfboard's just naturally kind of turning around to face the beach and start paddling because I couldn't see a reason not to go. But then, of course, the final straw, the locals paddling over, he's probably 20 meters away on the shoulder and just goes, go. And I'm like, all right, here I go. And so I turn and I just paddle my little arms off. And from that point, it was just the deepest flow state ever. Like it felt like I floated to my feet under this. It's a heavy wave. And I felt like I just floated to my feet under the lip. No chink in the process, just landed, fins engaged in the barrel. And I just stood there. I didn't bend over. I just stood tall. I mean, that's not a huge feat for my 5'9" stature.
So it could be true to say that time did stand still.
That's what it felt like. Time stands still. I've got the whole thing as a memory. I'm actually glad that I wasn't filming that morning because I feel like if I compared it to what it felt like, maybe I'd be disappointed or all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I stood tall in this barrel, did not have to bend over, didn't have to slow down. It was just perfectly paced. And I just stood there in this green cavern, at which time, the sun had just popped up over the hill. So the whole wave was being lit up, this green, what it's like, early morning light. And I just stood in this thing and just stood there, didn't move, and then just got spat out the end, pulled up off the back of the wave and just sat there and just went, this is the best wave of my life. I've been chasing that for 20 years. And the rest of the session, I got so many barrels that day still, but nothing compared to that one. And I was just in this beautiful, almost like an effervescent kind of fairyland. And I realized over the next day or two, and this is probably the big shift that you were alluding to, that, that's it. Like I've always not struggled with, but always contemplated, am I having a big enough impact on the world by doing this surfing thing, by sharing the surfing stories, by coaching people in surfing? And I've had some moments like using psychedelics and stuff where I'm like, oh, this is my expression of love. And, you know, I'm helping people understand that and then achieve their own expressions of that. But really what solidified for me after that wave was, oh, that's the moment that I'm trying to help guide people to, is that moment there, which we could call a peak experience. We could call deep flow state, whatever we want to call it. It's when you feel, I mean, it's hard to describe it. It's when you feel electrified from the heavens.
A climax.
I guess so. Yeah, like a heart orgasm. and you're just electrified. It feels like you've been struck by lightning. Your face is on fire, like everything's alive. It's hard to describe that feeling. But I was like, that's the moment. That's what I'm actually trying to get people to. So now every sort of decision around the business, around where I'm going, around what we end up opening in terms of locations or whatever, it's all coming back to, is this progressing people towards that moment that I can help them get to?
Which is quite noble.
I hope so. I mean, you need something, right? You need something more than just numbers on a page, numbers in a bank account, whatever it is. For me, anyway, I need meaning behind what I'm doing, and I think that's where I've found it.
I remember my first boss in Europe telling me when I was leaving the surfboard factory to go into the surf camp business, and I asked her, you know, I was a bit apprehensive, and she did say at one stage, look, Darren, people will sell their grandmothers to get that 1 week experience, and they're not going to do it for a t-shirt or a hoodie, depending on the person. Some people are extremely into fashion, but saying that is their passion as well. But a lot of people will do anything just to get that week. Like, look at Matt, he's traveling Europe. They've dumped everything.
Yeah, sold up, quit my job, had a sick job, quit my job, sold our house. Emily, my wife, quit her job, and we're like now spent a month in Hossegor. Like, I worked it out because I'd done a counter. We was there for 27 days, and I surfed 34 times. And in that, I did mark the days, like the days of the comp, where it was just giant. Like, it would have been unsafe for me to surf. So I think I surfed 34 times out of 20 surfable days in a month. Wow. Which is just unreal for me. And it is that search. What I wanted to ask you about, Kale, with that is because I've spoken and listened to a few people in different things where, like, they achieve something that they've been searching for and working towards for a long, long time. And then once you achieve it, it's almost like, well, now I need to go and better that. Did that kick in for you? Or like, because obviously yours wasn't essentially something you're really dedicating every second to, because I'm talking about people who like win championships in football or become like a boxing world champ. Once they've done that, it's like, that's what they've been working to. How did you feel after that? Obviously, you said in the rest of that session, you was almost like on a high, but like the day after and the day after that, are you then like, I now need to try and better that wave?
Yeah, I think there's an element of it because your yardstick changes from an experience like that. And every single barrel that I got in Nicaragua, of which there were many, nothing even comes close to that barrel. Because now you're looking for that same amount of, I guess, rush. And you can see how people who grow up around waves like that, where they get waves like that consistently, I can see that step ladder of going, okay, more. For me, I don't see it going towards, like, I'm not going to start chasing like big, crazy, stupid waves. I think I'm past that. Like, I'm 32 now anyway. Like, I'm just sort of, if I can get that again and again,
it's already good enough.
It's already good enough. Yeah. But who knows? Like, I think it changes subtly because I've watched over my time filming myself. I've watched myself on waves and I've gone, hang on, that wave that I caught there on footage, it actually looks pretty big. But when I was out there, it felt like really chilled and easy. And that's something that's changed over the years, because the waves that I used to feel nervous around have steadily increased and gone up in size. So I think, yeah, it happens quite unconsciously. You start just becoming used to it, and it's like an exposure thing, right? You just expose solid waves and you get used to them, and then you start considering even more crazy waves to be the solid waves.
I'm wondering if surfing, well, I'm not wondering, I know surfing is an incredibly different sport to most others, just in the respect that, like, for example, it must have been like about 12 years ago, I borrowed a Gracie longboard out of the showroom at the time because it was small but perfect, and I just wanted to keep surfing because I saw that there was a swell coming, and it was in spring where you start losing your fitness. And I took this longboard down, and there was like 2 people out, and I got like 10 like incredible waves on this longboard, and I'd never done longboarding before. And being able to position myself on the board and then having this wave that went so long, and the trim it got me, I came in like just really buzzed.
Yeah.
And I remember I sent a message to one of my friends that came, Mick, and I said, oh man, I'm just going to get in. He didn't reply to me. I could feel his, since then he's become a champion SUPer. He's a really good kite surfer. He's a really good foiler and everything. But I remember at the time thinking he's just over me because I'm giving up. But it's not a case of giving up, as opposed to there's so many different experiences we can have in surfing.
Yeah.
Not just different waves, but different boards, that it seems like it's like limitless.
Yeah, I feel I was working with someone, and I can't remember, but you know how when you're working with someone, you're looking for different ways to help the information land with them. So I was going through like a catalog of different terminologies and different vernacular, and we landed on, because this person was quite spiritual, we landed on like there are more masculine surfs and pursuits in surfing, and then there are more feminine surfs and pursuits. And for me, when I'm surfing the mid-length on a 2-foot day and it's really fun, it becomes more of a feminine kind of dance and play. And you're in that zone of, it feels creative, and it's like just this beautiful flow, and you can get this incredible experience where you're just feeling electrified but in a different way. And then there's that more masculine, I think, energy and expression where it's like, I'm going to beat up the waves today. I'm going to go and try and tear this thing to pieces to achieve this different satisfaction, where it's like it's like going to the gym and lifting really heavy, like a deadlift really heavy, and going, fuck, that feels amazing when I do that. So I that's how we sort of blocked it out. And I felt that actually kind of started to make sense for me as well. It's limitless. You can find anything you're looking for, you can find in the surf.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was something I wanted to bring up. I actually was planning to bring it up like on any poddy, and it is much better that you're here to talk about it as well, because before coming out here, generally most of the time I would want to surf with a friend, one friend or more, and most of my surfs, so at my local, I'd be able to paddle out even if it wasn't planned, and I'd see 1 or 2 people I know. And then obviously coming out here, I've surfed on my own most of the time. A couple of times with Fipsy, but he paddles, he just disappears. And my very last surf,
he's a phantom, isn't he?
Yeah. And my very last surf was with Christian Bradley, and that was one of my favourite of the whole thing. It was perfect. It was Sunday afternoon, and it was like, shoulder high and as clean as it gets. But it was also so much fun because I had Bradley going, go, 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 or me calling him into ones, and like, but a lot of it, when I was surfing on my own, like getting up first light to beat the crowds and stuff, it felt a bit Jimmy. That's what I was saying to Emily, is like, it felt like I was doing it like if when you go to the gym, you're like, right, I've got to be there, I've got to do it. And obviously you travel quite a lot, and are probably in the experience where you surf with on your own quite a lot. And does that change your experience in the surf as well with the people you're around?
Yeah, for sure. It's so different to being at home, and I'm the same. I love surfing with one or two mates. But even like Daz and I went surfing the other day, and you see each other for 1 or 2 minutes, and then the crowd gets in the way. It's so different to surfing at home, where you on a structured reef break, you're going to be sitting right next to your friend or your brother, and you're going to be chatting the whole time in between waves. But no, I'm lucky in that I know people wherever I go. I've sort of built this extended global family, which is really nice. And then these days, which is still quite perplexing to me, is I always seem to be approached by someone who watches the content and whatever and wants to come up and chat. So I end up having a chat with a local of some kind wherever I go, which is super nice. So yeah, but it's different, right? Again, if you are surfing on your own, especially if I'm filming as well, it adds in that. I wouldn't say it takes away from the experience, but it adds in a work style, checking the box kind of element to it. But I think you need to salt with the opposite of that, which is just this free, playful, no goals, no outcomes desired kind of surf as well. And play is really important for learning too. So there's a lot of research out now. I was listening to Huberman, I think, on this, and he was saying how when you have a play mindset, at least this is the case for children, we can extrapolate that and say it probably is the same for adults. They learn so much better and create stronger neural pathways in a playful mindset when they're playing than they do in a structured sort of formal learning environment. So I think having that, if you would call it intentional playful sessions in between your more objective oriented surf sessions, I think is really important just for your own growth and progression in surfing.
I'm just desperate to catch waves.
Yeah.
When I get out most of the time.
It's never enough.
And as you've noticed here, I over the last few weeks, it does change dramatically over winter. But as I was checking the surf before the Quick Festival, Dane Reynolds was behind us. Christian knows him, so he said hello and stuff. What are you doing here? Are you in the festival? Oh, no. Waves have been really bad, and he knew that France is a good time of year at this time of year.
Yeah, right.
So it is kind of like a hot spot, like the North Shore in its winter, Indonesia in its winter. So this time of year, it can be quite stressful if there's not a lot of sandbanks, which has been the case at the moment. And the ones that are there are exceptionally good.
So good.
So you really do have to fight for your waves. And the other day, I kind of also came to the conclusion as well, where people go, there's a half average surfers out there and they're trying to hassle me and stuff. And I said to one of my partners at surf school, Terry, I said, if they don't hassle us, they're not going to get a wave.
Yeah.
So they're just doing what we're doing. Like even beginners, if they don't hassle, they're not going to get a wave, which is one of the really, really important concepts in surfing that you're going to have to get used to is you got to hustle. You got to hustle, and you got to hustle unless you're happy to just go out and catch one wave.
Yeah, and there's environments where you don't need to do that. When there's 2 or 3 surfers, like you can afford to be this generous, magnanimous human and be gifting away waves and all that sort of stuff. But in reality, when there's 20 people in a lineup, you're probably going to be perceived as an asshole by at least 4 or 5 of them if you catch a lot of good waves. And it's part and parcel. I notice, and you know what's funny is that there's a certain demographic in surfing, I would say, who cause the most problems when it comes to etiquette. And it's not, and this might challenge some people, and it's not the very capable or experienced surfers. I find in general, France is sometimes a little bit different. I find in general, the more advanced the surfer, the more closely they follow lineup etiquette, but the better they are at taking advantage of lineup etiquette. I find it's the intermediate. If we can lump people based on their ability, it's the intermediate surfer who feels a little bit jaded, perhaps, that causes the most issues. I would say it's that demographic and subs.
I think though that they're, unfortunately for these men and women, that they're at the hardest position as well. Because if you're a complete beginner, you can extract.
You don't need the best waves.
You can extract joy from a certain type of wave, and then as you get better, you want the better type of wave, and then it's harder and harder to get that sort of wave. But that's one of the challenges of surfing, and I actually tried to tell a lot of my guests this year, like, and I hate saying it, back in the day when I grew up, but when I did, no one gave you a single wave ever.
It was brutal.
Not even my best mates.
Culture.
Oh, my best mates would paddle around me, catch what I left, come back. They're on the outside. Right comes. They're going. They're not like saying, "Oh, I just had one."
Yeah. It's the rite of passage in a way. You've got to earn. There's a part of me that likes that about surf culture.
Well, the more time you put in the water, generally, the more experience you get at that. And then that's saying, okay, this person's put so much time in the water. Like if you went to the bowling green, the guy that's been there every day playing his long bowls, he wants the best line, closest to the bar.
Yeah. What do you think of wave pools? And I mean, surf culture is changing rapidly, and I've had this conversation a lot recently, where that we might say that core surfer cohort is in relative terms becoming a much smaller piece of the pie in terms of the surfing population. We're never going to stop people surfing, as we've talked about, and as you guys will talk about a lot. Surfing is the best sport in the world. It feels amazing. People are coming into it, and there's not many people who are actively involved in saying, "Hey, everybody, start surfing." But we're naturally going to have to deal with a huge increase in the numbers of surfers in the world. What do you think? Is there a solution? Is it going to take away the joy? Are wave pools the solution to disperse and disseminate the crowd more evenly? What's going to happen?
I think wave pools have a responsibility first and foremost of continuing to, if they want to be seen as part of the surf community, I think they've got a responsibility of continuing to teach and educate for the ocean, not just for the wave pool. I've been to Bristol, and I know a lot of people surf there who will rarely go to the sea. They'll just surf Bristol all the time. And if you drew a line up in the ocean and said, right, a surfer's coming here, you're paddling out, where'd you go? They wouldn't know, like, oh, right, head towards the white water to get around that surfer, or go to the channel, and even how to like properly duck dive. And it's hard to obviously educate people in that environment when really they're going just to surf waves. And so in my opinion, like, wave pools are more, they're not surfing, they're riding waves. And I think that wave pools could do a lot more. I mean, if it depends on where they are and the location stuff, but if they done trips to the ocean and they took their regulars or helped educate people in a different way, then that would help it. But really, there's not much you can do. And if you don't know the surfing etiquette, you generally find out the hard way. Generally, you're the one who gets screamed at and made to feel like an idiot, and then you probably then go home and go, what did I do wrong? So I think there's still, the more,
no matter how good you get, and people way above our level as well, it still happens.
Yeah.
Like Tom Curran or Tom Carroll in the 80s, 90s in Hawaii would go there. Gary Elkerton, they were getting interferences against them, and they'd lose a world title for things like that. And it seems implausible that, like, at Wimbledon at the final, that if there was an London tennis player, that at the other end of the court against the other guy, that someone would like throw apples at him or something like
Yeah.
that, or like, or rub soap around his racket handle, which is also one of the incredible what was it, wild west aspects of surfing, which kind of makes it so alluring. Like imagine you've done your 5 years in a wave pool and you've never been to the ocean, and then you come down to a surf break to go surfing, and you go, but how come they're not sitting in line waiting? Okay, I got here second. I'm second wave. And it's not going to happen. So I think I hope pools take the pressure off us just by having people at the pool and not necessarily break.
I think a couple like that is a good point. I think there's a lot of comparisons or crossovers between golf and surfing. Like a lot of people play golf and surf and vice versa, and it's the same as imagine only having a driving range. And then you go out to a course and suddenly not everything's in a straight line. Like the golf hole has a dog leg or is up and down and there's bunkers in the way and things like that. That's the best way to see it. And I think what you said earlier, Kale, is the best way for it is especially surfing in the ocean. So surfing, it's the greatest humbler. No matter who you are and how good you are, you get humbled, you feel confident, and suddenly the ocean's just like, not today, mate, and just pins you down or does something. And I think no matter how confident you can get in a wave pool, and it does teach a lot of good technique and ability, ultimately, if you don't surf in the sea, you'll get humbled by it.
Yeah, I honestly see a demographic split where we're going to have wave pool surfers who, like you said, just surf the wave pool, maybe surf the ocean once a year on holiday, and the I guess we could call them the traditionalists who just mainly surf in the ocean and then maybe use the pool as a training facility. Because I think as a training facility, that's where wave pools are going to excel. The repetition and the on wave time is unparalleled, and that's where the future is, and we're going to see it's like the skate story, right? When parks became a thing versus street, we're going to see people pushing the limits of surfing very fast. I mean, we saw those clips of Leo doing the air section over and over again in Switzerland. I mean, imagine that on a broader scale where guys like you and I can go and practice airs for a week, and then all of a sudden we've got airs down. What's next? So it's like we're going to see a broad sweeping up leveling of surfing ability, and it's going to be interesting to see. Imagine if we have all these rippers out in the ocean and everyone rips.
It's very daunting.
Isn't it daunting? I know.
You could do an air reverse, but you can't do a duck dive.
Yeah.
we're it's a flash episode. Listeners, we're coming close to time before Matt has to go. He's going to get a tooth extracted or something like that. We're not too sure. I'm going to do a quick do. Matt's going to do a quick don't, and then Kale's going to do one of each. So I say, do surf the swells. If you see a swell coming, that's what you're looking for. That's what it's about. You're looking at maps. You're listening to people. If you see a swell, drop everything, take the day off. Wax up your best board, get on it.
Yeah, good one. My don't would be don't forget that you once were a beginner and a learner. I see too many like kind of good or intermediate and advanced level surfers like shout at beginners. Like we was all there. We were all in that position once at a time. So don't forget where you come from.
Yeah, I would probably, I mean, it's hard for me to come up with one with a minute remaining, but I would say do try and remember or try and consider how you might be perceived in the lineup based on what you're actually doing. Because since doing the YouTube thing now, I'm even more so than ever. I try and go, okay, but best behavior. And really think about how people might be perceiving you, even though naturally some people are going to think you're an asshole. And I would say, don't start supping.
Okay. That's the best one ever.
So you're anti-supping, Matt's anti-foiling, and I'm anti-fighting. Steer clear of fights.
What about the other day?
Steer clear of fights in the lineup, guys, and how old you are or young you are. Thanks for coming, Kale. Au revoir.
Thanks, guys. Au revoir.
Just so people know, Darren beats up kids. Cheers,
Only.
boys.